For the past 30 years, my grandfather has been on the run from Krampus. It has always been hard for me around this time of year, with the holidays quickly coming upon us. It is this time of year where people must particularly consider their friends and family. I have never been particularly close to any of my family. To put it in perspective, I was always a troublesome kid. Growing up in a broken home with no father and an abusive mother has never been easy. The moment I got old enough, I packed my bags and got as far away as possible. Through all that time, I never looked back. My mother had made several attempts to call me over the years, but I would never answer. Deep down, it kind of hurts. The holidays are painful for me. I can only imagine what they're like for her. As far as family, I consider my loyal group of friends family. As far as actual blood kin, the only person I ever stayed connected to was my grandfather. Back when I was a kid, my grandfather had always been there for me during the hard times. When things got rough and I needed to get out of the house, his door was always open. I could never forget all the times he stayed up late talking with me. I have known my grandfather for as long as I've been alive. However, I never got to meet my grandmother. According to my grandfather, she passed away around the time my mother was 16 years old. I guess that's why my mother resents my grandfather. My mother and grandmother were supposedly inseparable. The day she lost her, I imagine her entire world came crumbling down. All the more reason why the holidays are so painful. Though I do resent my mother, I can't say her reasoning is completely unjustified. Over the years, I was practically raised by my grandfather. He taught me many things like hunting, archery, and even how to survive out in the wilderness. My grandfather has always been an off-the-grid kind of guy. With him being old, I imagine he would rather not deal with the wave of constantly advancing technology. Something I've always found odd, though, is his suspicious lack of presence around the holidays. Every year, I would make an attempt to reach out to him for the holidays. Sometimes, I just wanted to check up on him. Sometimes, I had presents to give him. No matter what, he was incredibly difficult to find this time of year. In the few conversations I did have with my mother, she would explain that he started doing that shortly after Grandma passed away. I imagine he just doesn't like being around on the holidays, especially after losing someone so important to him. I wouldn't hear from Grandpa until, at least, January 1st. I always felt this was weird. Did the holidays hurt that much? This year has been the hardest, though. My grandfather has gotten very old now. He is no longer able to do the things he once did. Earlier this year, we had to invest money into a wheelchair after he took an unfortunate spill down a set of stairs. My grandfather no longer has that spark of joy he once had. Now, we come to the reason I am writing this. It has come that time of year again where my grandfather goes off the grid. Only this time, I think he's realized that he's become far too old and feeble to do what he really wants to do. A few days ago, I went over to his house to speak with him, but no one answered. Though he is wheelchair-bound, he's always been insistent on living alone. It wasn't until I looked down that I saw a piece of paper neatly folded into the door. It was a letter from my grandfather to me. And this is what it read. Dear Mark, as you've already figured by this point, I am not here. As you've always known, it is this time of year where I must vanish off the face of the earth. Only this time, I know I won't be able to run from it. Mark, I have addressed this letter to you because I knew you'd visit. You always do. I want to first thank you for being an amazing grandson. You are a better man than I could have ever been. There is something I need to get off my chest. Your mother would never be able to handle the truth if I told her. To be honest, I don't know if you will either. But here goes. 30 years ago, I murdered your grandmother. Your mother was at school at the time, and I had come home from work earlier than expected. I walked in on your grandmother having an affair with another man. In a fit of rage, I grabbed my rifle and shot them both dead in our bedroom. I did the unspeakable, but it didn't stop there. I managed to get away with it for one reason and one reason only. This way, during a time of racial unrest, I was able to point the finger at some innocent black man, and they believed it. That's just one of the fucked up things about history. Back then, no one really cared about truth and justice. It was all about civil unrest. In total, I ended 2 lives and ruined 1. It's amazing how I was able to keep this from your mother for so long. I did something bad. Something very bad. For the past 30 years, I've been running. Not only have I been running from the guilt of what I did, but something else. As you can imagine, doing something like this does not go unpunished forever. I may have evaded the law, but far more sinister forces have been after me ever since. Have you ever heard of Krampus? Basically, he's a malicious holiday demon that does the opposite of Santa's job. Krampus punishes bad people. At least, that's how I perceive him. I never believed in that stuff at first. But that first year, I remember what happened. I remember those large hoof prints in the snow. Every year, he would come for me. But I got smarter. That is why I disappeared this time of year. If that demon were ever to get his hands on me, I don't know what he'd do. But I've gotten too old, Mark. I can't run from him anymore. If you've found this letter, I am not here. I won't be here anymore. Over the years, I've invested in setting up a hiding place where no one will find me. Don't bother looking for me. You will never find me. But I have a feeling the demon will. If I can't run from him, I won't risk putting my family in danger. For 30 years, I've had to live with my sins, and now my judgment is coming. By the end of this holiday, I will not be heard from again. As you read this, I am currently in my undisclosed location waiting. Do not worry. I am armed with only my rifle, the same one that I used that fateful day. I intend to use it one last time. When he comes, I'll be ready, not to use it against him, but myself. I've spent most of my life thinking about what I did, and I'll have plenty more time to do so when I get to hell. Believe me, Mark, demons are real. I write this in the hopes that you will not be concerned for my presence. Tell your mother I'm sorry ... for everything. I love you. I love you all. Merry Christmas. And always remember to be a good boy. I certainly wasn't. With regards, Grandpa. I have spent countless hours trying to contact my grandfather. No one has seen him. I don't understand. How can an old man in a wheelchair just disappear off the face of the earth? That letter gave me an entirely different perspective of my grandfather. He did the unthinkable, and has been living with it his entire life. I broke into Grandpa's house for any clues as to where he might be. After searching for hours, I came across nothing. That was until I discovered a box cleverly hidden in his bed frame. The box contained old newspaper articles of a man being found and arrested for the murder of my grandmother and the man she was seemingly having an affair with. One article was of the innocent black man being sentenced to life in prison. It turns out that innocent man died in prison shortly after I was born. Another thing was a picture of what appeared to be large hoof prints in snow. The last thing in the box disturbed me. It was a picture of an almost obscure figure standing on a roof. The picture seemed to have been taken from a window. All I could really make out was that the figure on the roof was tall with something that may have been horns on its head. The picture had "He almost found me" written on it. I took the box and left the house as quickly as I could. As it currently stands, Grandpa has yet to be found. If his words hold true, I don't think we will find him. Grandpa, if you're out there somewhere, please come home. You may have done a monstrous thing, but I don't think you're a monster. I feel that this Krampus thing is just a way of him saying that he's being hunted by his own guilt. That wouldn't explain the pictures, though. I will try to update this if anything comes out about his whereabouts. With Christmas rapidly approaching, I just want to know that he's out there somewhere. Update: this morning, I found a letter neatly placed under my Christmas tree. I found him. He's mine now.